We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
May thy knife chip and shatter.
Hi. It's been a minute. We didn't mean to take a month off. That's my fault. My bad.
I meant to take a month off.
All right, well, we all did. Oops. Yeah, we all took a page out of your notebook. Welcome back to Bomb Squad Matinee, episode number 16. And today, we have three of us. Introduce yourselves.
I am the Spice King.
I am Tim M. Chalamet.
Lisa Markey! We're talking about Dune Part 2, arguably the biggest movie of the year, which I think is a pretty good note for us to get back on. It's been through 2.5 years, not quite 3 years, since the release of Dune Part 1, or just Dune if you're that kind of person, and over 40 years since the release of David Lynch's Dune. We're not talking about that movie today as much as Joe wants us to, but
I'm definitely gonna mention it a lot. But
I'm gonna kick you out of the server as soon as you do.
Oh, you bastard.
Okay. But before we get into our thoughts on the movie, let's just kind of talk about our expectations going in. Joe, we'll start with you.
All right, so my expectations going in. I really liked Dune Part 1, and I was very curious to see where the rest of the story would go, even though I know from having read the book and having seen the David Lynch movie kind of where it would go. But I was curious to see what Denis Villeneuve's take on it would kind of look like, because I really liked what he did with that first film. Specifically the fact that he treated this whole entire universe like this bleak fucking nightmare world. Like, it felt like a horror movie a lot of the time, which I really loved. So to hear it would kind of lean more into the actual like sci-fi action elements of it had me a little worried, because I liked kind of the approach he took with the first part. But I was still open for it because Denis Villeneuve, I think he's a fantastic director. I don't think he's made a bad movie in my book, or at least not one that I've seen yet. So I was willing to go in just for him. But yeah, I was looking forward to it. There's really not much else that can be said. Back to you, Tanner.
Great stuff. Tim, the chosen one. Tim, what were your expectations going into Dune Part 2?
Look pretty good.
Moving on.
Is that actually all you have to say about this?
No. So, yeah, it looked good. I enjoyed the first one, and I was looking forward to seeing where it would go from there. My fiance had not seen the first movie yet, so we got to revisit that with her prior to this. That got me excited. So, yeah. Again, not a whole lot to say, but yeah, it looked good. I was excited for it. Definitely looked like it would be a fun experience on the biggest screen possible.
Good stuff. All right, so I'll be brief on this. If you guys would remember 2.5 years ago when we were going into the first Dune, I think I was probably the biggest Dune skeptic of the group.
100% you were. You thought I was crazy for being excited for the first
I didn't
one.
think you were crazy because most people were excited. I just had a healthy amount of skepticism because, and Joe, you understand this, I've also read the book.
Right.
I've read all of the books. Well, all of the Herbert novels. I haven't really read the Brian Herbert novels as much. Some of the later movies in this franchise are actually unadaptable, way more than the first Dune is. I was hesitant to be excited for the first one, but it really won me over. I thought Denis did an excellent job of adapting the first half of the story. Even though I liked Dune Part 1, a lot of it was just sort of exposition, the movie. In parts, exposition for what would come to be in the second half of the story here that we've gotten this year. So I was reasonably excited going in. I thought maybe I'd like this as much as I liked the first one. Then some of the reviews started to pour in, and we're talking like it immediately entered top 10 on IMDb, and I know IMDb ratings are pretty meaningless, but I still went, whoa, that been a minute since a new movie did that. The critics were loving it, and most importantly, David Allreich hated it. which is always a great sign. I'm kidding. David, if for whatever godforsaken reason you're watching this, I'm actually a fan of your work. We just disagree a lot.
I'm not a fan, but I would very much like to have a discussion with you. I think that'd be very fun.
Would like to have a discussion with you. It's just Joe silently packing a gun. David Ulrich, if you are watching this, we're not threatening death upon you.
Yeah,
I swear.
Yeah, don't listen to what Tanner's saying, because I wouldn't have a gun. I'd have a bazooka. Just kidding.
Oh, Joe, okay. Moving on.
For
I
legal
was
reasons,
excited.
these are jokes.
Yeah, Mr. FBI, Mr. Ulrich, we're kidding. I was excited going in, and I saw it opening night. What did I think of it? We'll get into it in a minute. But first, you got to hear these two knuckleheads' thoughts on the movie, starting with the least Tim.
It's pretty good.
All right, moving on. Joe. No, I'm kidding. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, so I saw it twice in the theaters. I just revisited it a couple hours ago at the Alamo Drafthouse, and like a week or so after it came out, I got to see it with my fiance at the OmniMax. And I will say, fuck you.
I wish that I wanted to see it, and I'm on the Max. I just couldn't find the time.
Yeah, I will say.
I was also severely depressed.
I will say, comparing the two experiences, like I think I like took in the story more on the Alamo Drafthouse viewing. The OmniMax viewing was definitely more of just like an immersive experience, which I enjoyed. But you know, with the screen surrounding you, it's kind of hard to take everything in. There were even literally some times where the subtitles would be on the side of the screen and they would get cut off. So there's that. But I'm glad I got to see it both ways. Get the immersive OmniMax experience and the more like take in the full story experience at the Alamo Drafthouse. I definitely would say that I like this one more than the first one for a couple reasons. Number one, the ending is definitely more climactic than part one, where it's just like, this is only the beginning.
Literally, word for word, Zendaya says that.
And then number two, the pacing was a big thing for me. Like, you kind of went into this earlier, Tanner, but like that first movie, it's only like 2 hours, 35 minutes, but it feels much longer. And like this one, the pacing felt a little more in line with like RRR or John Wick Chapter 4, where like it's big and grandiose, but like it still feels like it's not like dragging. Like it feels like a very just good big story, and it's great, great follow-up to the first film. And again, like Denis Villeneuve doing all of his Denis Villeneuve-ness, making it a very, very pretty movie. It's very good. I'm rambling at this point, but suffice to say, I quite enjoyed. Movie good. Back to you, Tanner.
Great stuff, Joe. From what I understand, you liked it, but you're not as hot on it as everyone else in America. Care to explain?
Oh boy. Okay, so I might have the hottest takes out of everyone here. So I saw this like at my work, because it's almost like I work at the Alamo Drafthouse or something, and I can see these movies whenever
Allegedly.
I have a day off. Allegedly. But I did see this at my work, and I liked it when I watched it, and don't get me wrong, I still kind of like it. However, I feel like on like subsequent like think backs of the movie and just really kind of like thinking back to elements of it, like some of the filmmaking, some of the storytelling, it really just, it kind of hurts the movie when I think back to it, and it just kind of like begins to kind of fall in quality for me. The whole the way I would describe it, like I described the first movie, it was like a weird nightmare world. I didn't really get that much of that with this one. unfortunately. I didn't feel like this was some creepy ass nightmare world that these people were living in. And I was really missing that because it made the first Dune feel unique to me. And then this was just kind of, oh, we're wandering in the desert. The effects, I think, are spectacular, except for one scene of the movie, and that is the arena fights. I think that is where the effects like really start to show that, oh yeah, this is a special effect. Because I did not believe for a second that they were in that arena. I thought the effects were pretty bad there. Yeah, Tanner's shocked reaction. I think the other thing too is, and I'll probably go more into this in general discussion, but if it wasn't going to continue to be like a creepy ass nightmare world, I wish that they would have like really tried to capture like a sense of whimsy and awe and excitement. And I didn't even really get that from this. I also think, and I love Paul in this. I love Paul in both the Dune story. I love Timothée Chalamet in the first movie, and I like him here. I think he's doing a really good job. However, I'm not gonna lie, it feels like just they keep like it's like something happens, they keep moving on, and then another thing happens, and I don't really feel progression. It feels like things happen for the sake of like happening in this. I don't know. There's a lot that I can kind of unpack with this one, but I enjoyed my time for the most part. I think the performances are pretty good in this. Though it's like, and Tanner gave me shit last time about this, and okay, I will be fair because she was only in it for like a couple minutes. However, I'm gonna put this out there. Zendaya is a good actress. I think she is miscast in this. I think you needed someone who could portray, have like a commanding presence, and honestly, probably someone who felt a little bit older than she looks and sounds. Like, again, she looks like a little kid playing dress up. That's basically what I'm getting at. And I felt she was miscast in that role. And hold on. I need to, dude. Shawnee is like a teenager. That's fair, but like,
she is a little kid playing dress up.
I don't know that role. I don't know what it is about how they do it in the movie and just Zendaya's performance that doesn't work for me, but it just feels like a miscast for me, and I couldn't really take it seriously. The only other role that I could not take seriously at all, and it's not even really his fault at this point, it's Christopher Walken as the Emperor, and it's like it's not his fault because he's giving it his all. But like every time I see it, I snicker because it's Christopher Walken.
Two Mudalibs are swimming in butter.
Yeah, it's the gaps between all of his sentences that's doing it. I'm like trying not to laugh a little bit, but he is giving a genuinely good performance. It's just his past associations.
Right. But yeah, I still think the movie's good, and there's stuff that I want to compare to the David Lynch movie in general discussion. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'm going to let Tanner explain his thoughts. Back to you, Tanner.
Okay, this is my favorite movie of the year so far, and if it's not in my top 3 or 5 by the year's end, it will have been another spectacular year for movies. I think it does an excellent job of adapting the source material. I think Dune is one of the best sci-fi novels ever written, and I think Denis Villeneuve has unironically crafted one of the best straight sci-fi movies ever made. And I say straight sci-fi because it's not a sci-fi horror, it's not a sci-fi comedy, it's not a sci-fi whatever. It feels like pretty straight, hard sci-fi, and I think it is one of the greatest examples of science fiction filmmaking ever made. Which makes it funny that it's not even his best sci-fi movie. That title goes to a rival. But Denis Villeneuve, good with sci-fi, who knew? I think he really gets to show off the fact that this is the guy that in fact directed Sicario. Because the action set pieces I think are pretty breathtaking. I think just the entire time you kind of sit there just in awe of the sense of scale, the size of it all. I think the performances across the board are spectacular. I think this is that scene of Timothy Chalamet in that like religious room rallying the troops, basically being like, hey man, what makes you think you're the Messiah? And it's like, I know what your grandma dreamed of when she was 7, is pretty nuts. I think it is truly a star-making performance for Chalamet. Austin Butler, however, I think is probably going to be the biggest movie star out of everyone in this movie, because between this and Elvis, the guy has shown tremendous range, and every time he's on scene, I'm just like, oh. Javier Bardem's sort of comedic relief performance that slowly turns into this terrifying, oh god, this person has lost all sense of himself because of his religious fanaticism, is fascinating. A lot of my compliments of the story are largely because of the original Frank Herbert novel. I think it is an excellent deconstruction of white savior narratives, and I think it's an excellent critique of the dangers of hero worship. But I also think Denis Villeneuve makes changes to it that are for the better. For example, Chani is much more of a character with actual agency in the movie compared to the novel. In the novel, she just kind of exists to be in love with Paul. And she doesn't really have much agency beyond that. But in the movie, I think making her basically the audience surrogate and the moral center, the moral compass of the film, I think anchors the story in a very strong way. And always make sure we have one foot to the ground, essentially. And I think that was an excellent change Denis Villeneuve made adapting the novel. The only critique I will make is that I understand it could never happen, but fuck me, it would be so funny if there was a CGI toddler running around voiced by Anya Taylor-Joy. That would have been so goddamn funny. I like the whole talking to the baby in the womb thing, but oh my god, could you imagine if a goddamn toddler running around voiced by Anya Taylor-Joy that stabs Stellan Skarsgård? That would have been fucking incredible. I understand the direction they went, and I think for the movie it actually works really well. They could have never done the baby thing. It just wouldn't work in live action. In a way that'd be believable. It's great. Speed run of my favorite moments. Everything on the Hurricane homeworld with the shot on the infrared cameras is crazy cool. Especially the inky black firework effect thing. That was sick as hell. Absolutely breathtaking. Greg Fraser was a goddamn madman for being like, yo, what if we shot this shit on infrared lenses? And I'm crazy. It's insane the studio went for it, because like you can't make those scenes color now. There's no going back. And apparently it was that make a translucent quality on the skin, and I think it's an effect that sells really well. Overall, I think it is a brilliant movie. I think it is this is a special movie. I think we're going to be talking about this movie the same way we talk about The Lord of the Rings, honestly. And I know you two maybe aren't feeling it like I am, but I absolutely adored it. I think it's brilliant. It is my favorite movie of the year by far. And if I find a lot of movies better than it, then it was a damn good year for movies. I'm sure we're going to have more to say here, but we're going to have to take a quick commercial break for some before we get into some general discussion. See you in a bit. Welcome back from commercial break for another commercial. You see that thing right there? That's a movie palette. You can get one of your own of your favorite movie or any movie you enjoy by going to moviepalette.com. If they don't already have it, you can make a custom one for a little bit extra money. But before you go ahead and check out, make sure you enter the code SQUAD15 at checkout to save 50% on your order. Thank you. Back to the show. So
He fucking did it! He fucking did it!
I just needed the month off.
We need to fucking celebrate this moment. He fucking did it, guys. Let's go.
I managed to not say save 15% or more on car insurance. I did it. It was a little touch and go there. Thought we wouldn't make it, but we made it. So here's the primary thing I want to bring up. The funniest thing to me is watching TikToks after this movie came out of the scene where Timothy Chalamet goes, "May thy knife chip and shatter." And then the other character playing the Austin Butler equivalent's like, or like being like, yo, you want me to fucking jerk you off or something? So much homoeroticism. That's why Austin Butler is really the GOAT. He can inject a little bit of homoeroticism into his performances, and that's what acting is missing nowadays. All right, he really went to the Tom Cruise school of acting. The true movie stars make everything at least a little gay.
I mean, truly, there is a fine line between wanting to fuck someone and wanting to kill them.
I think it is it's feral, it's primal, it's very, you know, like you're a carnivore out there. You're a wild animal when you want to kill someone, or if you want to fuck them. The line is so thin. I agree.
Down tremendously. Down horrendously.
Down horrendously. All right, so.
Can we all agree though that I was on the subject of Austin Butler. Can we all agree there wasn't that much? There wasn't enough of him in the movie. We needed more of him.
The movie could have been all him, and it wouldn't have been enough.
Yeah. I do want to go off something you mentioned, Tanner, how it's a deconstruction of the white savior narrative. I saw a meme the other day that kind of broke my brain.
There are a lot of people that don't get it.
Yeah, like literally it was a meme that was like, people see movies like The Blind Side and all these others, I can't remember what all it was, and they think, oh, I hate white savior movies, and then they'll watch Dune and Dune Part 2 and think, oh, what a masterpiece. Like, you know that's the point, right? You know that's the point, right?
You know what? I'm just gonna have to stately plain this.
Stately plain.
Plainly state. Yeah, there we go.
That's my porno.
Plainly.
Name. Stately plain.
Yeah, I have to plainly state this. Paul Atreides is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a hero. He is going to lead into billions and billions of lives are going to be lost in his genocidal quest.
A counter meme that I also saw. The first book labeled Paul is bad, and then Dune Messiah, I guess, was just labeled. Okay, I guess I wasn't clear.
Frank Herbert literally wrote Dune. Dune was supposed to be a standalone novel, and then he wrote Dune Messiah because he was like, I guess you fuckers didn't get it.
Yeah. I
have to be obvious. And then he started writing more Dune books until the 6th novel, which is just Duncan, Idaho. It's gonna be great if they keep adapting the movies after Messiah. Eventually there will be a scene where a teenager Jason Momoa has to fight an army of naked Jason Momoas. That'll be great. Hope we get there. Or how about in Dune Heretics? How about in Dune Heretics, where like half that goddamn book is just Duncan Idaho being like, giant space worm goddess, don't want to have sex today. And the giant space worm goddess is like, but you do though. And Duncan Idaho's like, I guess. And then they fuck. And that's just half the novel. I'm only kind of kidding. When I say that.
Like, Dune is fucking weird, man.
I love it. It's great. Frank Herbert, I wish I was on the drugs you were on. They don't make them like they used to.
Like, literally, I haven't read any of the books. I've only seen these 2 movies, the Lynch movie and the documentary on Jodorowsky's failed adaptation.
Wow, you haven't seen the sci-fi miniseries? Fake fan.
I have not. A fake fan. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the Shining miniseries. Those are the 2. Those are the 2 miniseries that exist in the world.
Hey, don't forget about It, that everyone consistently misremembers as a movie for some reason.
Yeah. A lot of Stephen King miniseries. There are 2 parts.
Is that one where James Franco goes back in time to stop JFK from being killed? And for some reason, JFK not being assassinated leads to the segregationist George Wallace becoming president? And nuclear Armageddon breaks out.
Let's go.
I recommend the show tremendously. It's also one of Stephen King's finer books.
All right, so...
All right, get the Lynch stuff in.
All right, I want to mention... I'm going back to a couple points, specifically how I wish that if they were going to get rid of the Nightmare World stuff, that they would add a little bit of whimsy. I specifically want to compare the writing of the sandworm sequence from this movie and in the David Lynch movie, because and also it's the like how everything progresses and it just kind of feels like you don't feel like you earn it. I think that is a prime example for me, is the writing of the sandworm sequence, where it's like it's really good in the Denis Villeneuve one. It's shot really well. I think that's where the effects are at its best. But I think my biggest problem with it is I just don't find it that exciting. I don't know if it's the Hans Zimmer... Shut up. I don't know if it's the Hans Zimmer score. I don't know if it's the fact that it doesn't feel earned. I don't know what it is, but I don't really feel anything when I see it, other than, oh yeah, these effects are pretty cool. Compare it to the David Lynch movie, where the effects are fucking awful in it. Like, they're awful. You can see the keying around Kyle MacLachlan as he's climbing up the damn thing. But you compare to where it is in David Lynch's Dune, it's like a good way into the movie. And I mean, that whole movie is nothing but exposition and shit, and it feels like they're just throwing it at you, but you kind of sort of get a sense of who Paul is, and you see his journey throughout the whole movie. So it feels earned when he gets to ride the sandworm, and also you have that fucking Toto score, which is like big, bombastic, exciting. It's like the music emphasizes that this is a big, exciting moment. That I felt was missing from the writing of the sandworm sequence in this. I'm just gonna say it. You know your movie's kind of in trouble when I'm comparing the David Lynch one to this, and I'm saying that the David Lynch version did something better than you.
Well, I think to your point, like on the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning podcast we did last year, we kind of did. Austin at one point was kind of talking about the issues with the part 1, part 2 formula, mostly in financial terms, but like I guess in a sense it also sort of like you're waiting a few years between movies, so you don't necessarily have that sort of continued momentum going. So I guess that's a fair point, but I mean I still thought it was a great scene.
Like, I want to clarify, too. I don't hate the scene in Dune Part 2. I just wish I felt more. And honestly, I think that can kind of be a sentiment for, like, the movie as a whole, is I just wish I felt something more than, oh yeah, that was a good-looking movie, it was pretty good. And I thought it was fine. I wish, it's like, because, again, this movie's, like, hyped to oblivion. It's like, really fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's saying it's best movie of the year, best movie of the year, one of the best sequels ever made, one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. Like, everyone's hyping it up to, like, hell, and I want to be excited with everyone, especially because I loved the first movie. But, I don't know, there's just something about it that's just not connecting with me on the way that it is with everyone else. And I keep trying to figure out, like, what could make this movie, like, connect with me more. And I think, like, part of it is that. Part of it, too, I think they should have continued with the creepy Nightmare World stuff, which, talking about things that don't feel as big and exciting, I'm going to say this. David Lynch, they don't have, in this Denis Villeneuve one, they don't have the Spacing Guild. But in the David Lynch film, they 100% have the Spacing Guild. And you don't fucking forget the Spacing Guild. You don't forget the giant tumor in the tank. Like, that's something that sticks with you. And there's nothing in Dune Part 2 for me that really stuck with me like that. I don't know. I really don't know. I continue to try and piece this thing together. And
Joe, I got the answer.
What is it?
You forgot to open your eyes watching the movie.
I had my eyes open while watching.
No, I was in there. Joe, I saw it. Your eyes are closed.
Had the lens cap on.
Yeah, you had the lens cap on, Joe. You made a mistake. It's okay. You're only human.
No, here's what you needed for that scene to work is it needed to have the John Williams score from The Phantom Menace and Jake Lloyd going, "It's working! It's working!"
I'm not gonna lie, I think that would have actually made that sequence better. Speaking of Star Wars, man, oh man, whenever this comes to digital, I want to take that end sequence and put the music that ends Attack of the Clones to the ending of Dune Part 2. Because I was getting major Attack of the Clones vibes by the end of this, and Christ, I can't even believe I'm saying that in a positive light, because I think Attack of the Clones is pretty bad. Not the worst Star Wars movie, but it's up there. Yeah.
You ever seen that clip of Ewan McGregor finding out that the movie's called Attack of the Clones?
I actually haven't, no.
Oh, it's so fucking funny. He starts laughing and says, "Are you serious?" And then he like calls over Nicole Kidman and is like, "I just found out the new Star Wars movie's called Attack of the Clones." And Nicole Kidman goes, "No." It's great.
I need to look that up. All right. I'll pass it on, because I've been rambling for a while, I'll pass it off to anyone else who wants to go.
I feel like I got everything I wanted to say out of it during my thoughts. Honestly, I love the movie. I just don't know what more there is to say. I think it's brilliant. It connected with me on a deeply emotional level. Just like sometimes there's a movie, it's not necessarily about the emotions it makes you feel. It's about the true sense of scale, like true blockbuster filmmaking. You just kind of sit there and go, wow.
I'm thinking about this now because you had mentioned the camera technique that was used in that arena battle.
Well, camera technique, it's lens choice.
The lens choice, okay. The infrared lenses. I think that's what might have made those particular effects like really stand out to me. Because don't get me wrong, when they're on a set and they have those lenses on, it looks really good. But when I look into the background, or it's like you get like a wide shot with like Austin Butler in like in the frame, and you see the arena, I don't know, I just noticed the effects more during that sequence when the lenses are on, and I don't think it looks good.
So I do want to talk about that scene because like I do really think it looks good, and it was one of the scenes that like stood out to me the most in the trailer because it's so visually striking. Like particularly, you were talking about that, what was it, like luminescent quality that it gives them. Like it makes Austin Butler look super pale, which I think just makes him look like extra intimidating and creepy. It really sells the point that the scariest thing in the world is a white frat boy with rich family, if you ask me. And yeah, I just thought that was a really good scene.
I am curious, what is everyone's favorite shot in this movie?
There's a shot of like an ultra wide shot of Timothée Chalamet walking in the sand, where the sand's like shaking around him. That one sticks in my head a lot.
Is that the one where it's like he's very far off in the distance? You see the sandworm kind of coming out, and like the heat's kind of rising over like the rock. Okay, that's my favorite shot in the movie too. Cause
that's the one that sticks with me the most.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of
it's brilliant. I'm also fond of that one shot of Austin Butler in the Coliseum looking up, where he's like,
yeah, I guess like one of the ones that really sticks out for me is again in that Coliseum bit, the shot that like got screenshotted so much of him just like screaming with his full mouth. It's such
it looks like he's got no teeth.
Yeah, it's such a creepy fucking look.
I like how clearly he's deeply horny by pain. Like pain turns him on so much.
Yeah.
Also, apparently those women, like, did you guys pick up on the fact that the women that stay in his room are like cannibals?
No, I did not.
No, there's like a scene where like he kills someone, and after he kills him, he's like, take him to my room, they're hungry. And then later on I went, oh, that was a cannibalism. Oh, damn. That's kind of fucked up. So I think actually the biggest change from the book to the movie is in the Dune novel, Paul spends about 2 years on Arrakis, infiltrating himself in the Fremen culture, or immersing himself in the Fremen culture rather. In the movie, it's changed to like a few months, like maybe half a year, and I think that change mostly works. I don't actually think it affects the actual movie that much. But what it does lead to is two things. One, that daughter hasn't been born yet.
Yeah.
And two, Tim, this might blow your mind what I'm about to tell you. In the novel, Paul and Shawnee have a son.
Okay.
They have a kid. And that kid actually dies in the final battle. Which in part leads to Paul finally fully going, I'm gonna kill all you motherfuckers. I'm getting revenge. I think the change in the movie works fine. I think the final push Paul has is, I think it not being necessarily one final push, because like, don't get me wrong, nothing justifies the genocide of 7 billion people. But if your like 1.5-year-old son gets killed, I get it.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? I get the anger a little bit. But now I think it almost makes it more blatantly evil what Paul is doing.
Yeah, like I just get a sense of like he's leading a rebellion not for them but for his own power.
He wants revenge. However, I also think the movie maybe, and it is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. It is my favorite movie of the year so far, but and the more I think about it, the more I can actually see it maybe not being in my top 5, still definitely my top 10 by the year's end. It's just some silly changes like this. I don't think the movie makes it as obvious that the only reason, even though revenge is a big motivator, but one of Paul's primary reasons for going the path he does in this 7 billion genocide thing is because you have to keep in mind, Paul can see all the possible futures. Right?
Right.
He picked the one where Shawnee lives the longest. That's a pretty key part of his motivation that I don't think the movie makes very clear. I know that. I've read all of the fucking books. Tim, did you pick up on that at all?
No, I mean, he mentioned the thing about seeing the futures, but they didn't go super in depth on it. I didn't feel.
Yeah, they could have made the romance between the two of them more obvious. It didn't bother me, but I think I have to keep in mind that maybe the reason I'm so forgiving of these flaws is because I'm able to fill in the blanks because I've read the book. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything?
You got anything, Tim?
I don't know.
How about some trivia?
Let's go to trivia.
It took 8 hours for Stellan Skarsgård to put his makeup on.
I can see that.
Just to put it on.
Wasn't this part of the trivia in the last one?
Yeah, it still takes 8 hours. They didn't figure out how to make it shorter. Tim Blake Nelson filmed scenes for this movie that weren't included in the final cut, which is a tragedy. But what's a true casualty is that Stephen McKinley Henderson, the greatest actor of all time, also filmed scenes for this movie and they were cut.
Yeah, I have to assume, knowing Tim Blake Nelson as a character actor, he had to have been a Harkonnen.
I feel like I think he was. Austin Butler underwent vocal training to sound more like Stellan Skarsgård. I think that's a lie. I think he underwent vocal training so he could continue to learn how to stop talking like Elvis. When I noticed the trailers didn't show his voice at all, I was starting to think, oh god, what if he talks like Elvis the whole time?
It's the Andy Kaufman effect. He had to Elvis himself.
Yeah. The good news is that he figured it out, and Austin Butler did great things. Like, he improvised kissing Stellan Skarsgård. And at first I went, whoa, that's crazy. And then I just assumed, yeah, the Harricans are all into incest in the books. And then after, like a day after the movie, and when I just assumed that, I went, wait a fucking minute, no, they're not. That's not a thing in the goddamn books.
He's just freaky like that.
He just, you know what? Listen, when he put his hand in that pain box and he like grinned, I was like, oh, that man is into some sick shit. And he gained 25 pounds of muscle to play the character. Denis Villeneuve actually described Austin Butler's character as a cross between a psychopathic killer, an Olympic swordmaster, a snake, and Mick Jagger. It's funny. He specifically says Mick Jagger. Tim might know where I'm going with this. Mick Jagger was actually attached to play the very same character for Alejandro Jodorowsky's failed Dune adaptation in the 1970s. Imagine Mick Jagger's Afraid Ratha.
I mean, hey, we got Sting. I could imagine Mick Jagger as the same character.
Sting was offered an opportunity to cameo in the movie, and he turned it down.
You know, good for him.
I do love that Sting.
I gotta pet my cat now that she's bumped her head on me.
I do love that Sting.
Remember when they, speaking of cats, while I have my cat here, remember when they milked a cat in the David Lynch movie?
No, I don't, actually. I try not to think about that movie.
Hey, again, say what you want about that movie, but I felt that was more memorable than this one.
Can we talk about this as Christopher Walken's second time being involved in Dune?
What was this other time?
The music video Weapon of Choice by Fatboy Slim the lyrics of that song explicitly reference Dune.
Right.
Walk without rhythm.
I referenced it in the last Dune episode that we did. I know this, Tanner.
Yeah, fun fact, Christopher Walken apparently didn't make the connection himself until an interviewer pointed it out. It was like, oh, I see. My Walken impression is pretty bad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyway, in the books,
back
the
to
Emperor...
the OC.
Fuck you. In the books, the Emperor is described as an old man, but is in his his 30s, shape-wise, like appearance-wise, he looks like he's in his 30s. Which makes the choice of Christopher Walken, a man who, don't get me wrong, looks great for 80-something, also very clearly is an old man. Interesting. I'm gonna hit you guys with some alternate casting. You ready?
Alrighty, let's hear this.
Mads Mikkelsen,
Okay.
Viggo Mortensen,
Okay.
Charles Dance,
Okay.
Denzel fucking Washington, and this guy. Oh my god. If they got this guy, this would have made the movie go from the 10 to the 11. Tony Leung himself was apparently considered. I have to imagine for the Emperor, Tony Leung.
Oh yeah, that would have been incredible.
I can only imagine what actually happened as they asked, and he said, "I've done my American movie."
That's fair.
I did Shang-Chi. I did what I wanted to do. I still can't believe Shang-Chi got Tony fucking Leung. That was insane.
Good thing about Tony Leung, he didn't slouch it.
Some other actors that were considered to play Fade Rotha. Ty Sheridan.
That would have been hilarious.
Oh, you think that would have been hilarious?
Hold on, I want to make this statement before you surprise me with something even more funny. I like Ty Sheridan. I think he's a fine actor, but man, that casting would have just been very funny. All right,
I agree. I'll get the non-funnier ones out of the way. Barry Keoghan was considered. He's a little freak. I can see it.
Hold on, you said that wasn't funny?
Barry
no,
Keoghan,
wasn't funnier.
Barry Keoghan could definitely play the role, but jacked Barry Keoghan is something I don't want brought onto the world.
Bill Skarsgård was considered.
Okay.
Makes sense. However, the funniest, and I mean by far funniest alternative casting, the actor that was the funniest considered for Fade Rotha, the movie would have sucked if they went this direction. None other than the pop star Harry Styles was apparently considered for the part. Don't worry, darling, I'm Fade Rotha. I'm Fade Rotha. I'm a gay cop or something. I never saw My Policeman.
I'm sorry, honey. I must do cocaine and have sex with Ben.
When did I say that? When did I fucking talk about Maestro?
Iron Claw.
Yep.
I'm sorry, man. Okay, hold on. Speaking of Maestro, have you guys seen that clip that was like making the rounds on Twitter a few weeks ago where he's like, I'm sorry, I just love too much, but I'm reining it in. I'm reining it in! I think about it every day. Anyway, you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, so moving on.
No.
The character of Raban dies in a different way in each film. Raban is the character that Dave Bautista plays. In the original film, he's executed by the Emperor. In the miniseries, he's like torn apart by a mob of Iraqi natives. And in this movie, he gets his ass kicked and killed by Gurney Halleck. Believe it or not, that's what happened in the book. It took them 3 tries to actually do the thing that happened in the book.
Oh, goes.
And it's such a simple thing to correct and get right.
You gotta let Gurney do that. Like, it's a gimme, you know? You gotta let Gurney have, like, his revenge moment. And finally, my last piece of trivia is... Anyway, moving on to final thoughts. Joe, go.
I don't know. I think maybe whenever Denis Villeneuve actually makes Dune Messiah, I'll definitely see it. And I wonder if that might actually help Dune Part 2 and just kind of how I feel towards it in the future. For right now, though, I think it's a fine film. I don't hate it. I don't especially love it, though. I think there's stuff in it that could have been done better. I don't know if time's gonna help, because I mean, it's been almost actually, I think it has been a month since I've seen Dune at this point, and I've kind of soured on it. So I don't know if time's gonna be kind to it. It might. Who knows? But for right now, movie's fine.
Tim, final thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely think this was a solid follow-up to the first of Denis Villeneuve's Dune films. I'm excited to see what kind of crazy shit he does going forward with this. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of the year. My number one is Love Lies Bleeding currently, but it's up there. I've only seen like 6 movies of the year at this point, but
Hold on. Tim, our number one movie of the year is Sheena's Secret, isn't it?
oh, you're right. That's true.
Oh,
Movie of the year over 40 minutes.
There we go. Got to get that qualifier in there.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
technically, Sheena's Secret came out last year. It's online this year.
Yeah, it went wide this year. I count it.
Yeah, it wasn't online last time we were here. Go watch my movie now,
Yeah.
please, for
Go-
the love
go
of
watch-
God.
Go watch Sheena's
Watch
Secret.
it. I'm trying to manipulate Joe into doing things.
It's a movie that I actually was proud of. I actually like. It's like that, Purple Stuff, and Cruise. I love those movies, but I especially loved Sheena's Secret. I poured my heart and soul into making that thing. I spent 5 fucking years making it. Go fucking see it.
Yeah. Watch Sheena's Secret. But anyway, to finish my final thoughts, it's not my number one of the year, but it's definitely up there, and I'm sure it'll be maybe top 10 by the year's end. Back to you, Tanner.
All great stuff. I couldn't agree more. I love the movie. It's an exceptional sci-fi film. Go check it out in theaters if you can. It's still playing in theaters, so go check it out. And that's all we got for this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. So,
But you know who else is playing in theaters?
I'm not doing that thing anymore.
Oh, come on! I'll do it then.
Go ahead, but I have to do the outro.
But you know who else is playing in theaters?
You!
Oh, come on, Tanner!
I'm stealing your thunder. I'm the host, goddammit. You can do this bullshit when you host.
Hey, Tanner, you want to know who can go fuck themselves?
Me! Thank you for watching this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. If you enjoyed this episode and you're listening on any of the audio platforms we're on, go ahead and leave a review. Go ahead and mosey on down over to our Patreon. Throw a couple bucks our way. We'd appreciate it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Comment below and let me know, what do you think of Dune Part 2? What were your expectations going into the film? What do you think of Austin Butler in the movie? And how different would the movie be if Harry Styles was in it? Comment below and let me know. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit the like button so we know how much you like us. Hit the bell icon so we know how much you love us. And hit the subscribe button so you can know exactly when we upload new videos. Thank you again so very, very much for watching. Tune in next week when we, according to the schedule, will do a double feature of 2 movies hosted by the Tim M. Sullivan. Tim, do you want to explain what we're doing?
That's right. We are talking about the Quentin Tarantino samurai epic Kill Bill, and we're doing the whole bloody affair. We're talking volumes 1 and 2. So tune in.
That's right. It'll be a great time. Make sure you tune in. It'll be our first time. Will it be our first Tarantino?
It will be
First
our first
Tarantino.
Tarantino.
Wow, and we have like 2 or 3 on the schedule this year. That's crazy. Well, tune in. It'll be a lot of fun. See you then. Bye.
Lisan al-Gaib!
Listen on Gabe.
Watch Sheena's Secret.
They slid my ticket across the table and I said, "Sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl."